Good morning, everyone. I now note the hour has come. This is the Committee on Technology and Information Services, Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. And Ms. Hartman, will you please call the roll to take attendance? And members that are in attendance will please indicate that you are present when your name is called.
Chair Landau.
Here.
Vice Chair Squilla.
Present.
Councilmember O'Rourke.
Present.
Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Driscoll.
Present.
Councilmember Phillips. Present. Councilmember Harity.
On his way. Thank you. A quorum of the committee is present and the hearing is now called to order. This is the public hearing of the committee on Technology and Information Services regarding resolution number 250059. Ms. Hartman, will you please read the title of the bill?
Resolution number 250059, resolution authorizing the Committee on Technology and Information Services to hold hearings regarding the operation of the Philadelphia 311 non-emergency hotline and its engagement with city departments.
Thank you. So I just wanted to open with good morning. Thank you all for being here. Today we examine a crucial part of our operations, Philly's 311 system. This hearing isn't just about checking in on the hotline for non-emergency inquiries. It's about ensuring that when residents reach out for help to their local government, they get answers, not frustration. Technology is not just computer programs and futuristic hardware. Technology is actually the foundation of how all policy is implemented. The best ideas for how to improve our government easily breaks down and can't be accomplished if you don't have technology systems and processes to make them work. As chair of the Technology and Information Services Committee, I've come to learn that if the systems we rely on do not work efficiently, our city does not work efficiently. A responsive and reliable 311 system is essential to a well-run city, allowing residents to report problems, seek information, and see their daily lives and the environment around them improve. Everyone here has endured the long wait times, inconsistent responses, and a disconnect between requests and resolutions. The 311 service system should be designed to bridge the gap between residents and city services, not become another process to navigate. We expect our constituents to trust us, and they need to be able to trust that their needs are met with solutions, not silence. A streamlined, responsive government is not just a goal. In 2025, it is a need. Reporting an abandoned vehicle, a missed trash pickup, a Philadelphian in need, or any other kind of urgent quality of life concern, it doesn't matter. Every request deserves to be handled efficiently and effectively. If we track an Amazon package down to the doorstep, we should be able to see where our city service request sits. The communication in your 311 system should match the real status of your inquiry and what the solution is. Today, we examine the barriers that are holding Philly 311 back from being a transparent and responsive service. Investing in better technology, clearer communication, and stronger accountability measures will not only improve 311, it will improve the entire city of Philadelphia and the future of the city. I'd like to thank Councilmember Driscoll for introducing this hearing. I look forward to learning from our witnesses today and working with my colleagues to ensure that Philly 311 lives up to its promise. Let's make sure government works the way it should, effectively, transparently, and with the people at the center of everything we do. And with that, I will ask if anybody else has opening remarks. Councilmember Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Council colleagues and those testifying today before the Committee on Technology and Information Services regarding the operations of the Philly 311 system. I want to thank my colleagues for supporting the resolution that I introduced earlier this year to hold this hearing. And I also want to thank Chairwoman Councilmember Rue Landau for hosting the hearing today. Philly 311 was established in 2008 as a non-emergent information and reporting hotline to address a variety of quality of life issues. It's important that we reference it as a non-emergent because one of the core missions of the system was to alleviate non-emergency calls that were flooding our 911 system. Today, the most common concerns reported to 311 are abandoned vehicles, illegal dumping, missed trash collection, and property maintenance issues. Thousands of these concerns are reported monthly through 311. The 311 system is the reporting tool, not the enforcement agency. Once a request is submitted, it is then transmitted to the appropriate department, and 311 is supposed to update the constituent with any developments. However, a clear disconnect has emerged between residents and city services with Philly 311. Despite the Philly 311 website promising residents to improve your community, report an issue to watch it get fixed may still experience long wait times, unclear responses, and unresolved issues, and have criticized it for failing to meet service level agreement timelines or not addressing issues at all. The city invests millions of dollars annually into the 311 system, and I think it's important that we have this discussion today as we are in budget season again. It's important that it works effectively and efficiently for all Philadelphians and employees who rely on it daily. We do not want residents to feel like their concerns are not being addressed and reverting to using 911 as their primary line for non-emergent calls. Our goal is to assure everyone that the non-emergency hotline is working for them. So I look forward, Madam Chair, to today's discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Driscoll. Does anybody else have any opening remarks? No? Okay. With that, Ms. Hartman, will you please call the first panel? We have to testify this morning on Resolution 250059.
Jocelyn Jones, Executive Director of Philly 311. And available for questions are Rich Montanez, Farouk Scott, and Ralph DePietro.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Okay, my name is Jocelyn Jones, and I am the Executive Director of Philly 311. Good morning, Chairperson Landau and Vice Chairperson. Oh, okay. I thought I had, sorry. Vice Chairperson Squilla, and members of the Committee of Technology and Information Services. As stated, my name is Jocelyn Jones, and I am the Philly 311 Executive Director, and I appreciate this opportunity to testify regarding Resolution 25059, introduced by Councilmember Driscoll. The Philly 311 Contact Center serves as Philadelphia's customer service hub for non-emergency inquiries, supporting the mayor's vision of making the city of Philadelphia the safest, cleanest, and greenest big city in the nation with economic opportunity for all. Philly 311 offers a multiple communication channels for customers to ask questions and report issues which are submitted to the respective departments as service requests. Philly 311 can be reached through a variety of communication channels for inquiring, reporting issues, or service request submissions when customers need assistance. The most used method is the telephone. However, you can submit a request contact us through our mobile app, using our web application as well. Philly 311 responds to an average of 1,600 calls a day, managing more than 60 types of service requests across 8 city departments. Those departments include license and inspections, Philadelphia Water Department, Philadelphia Fire Department, Philadelphia Police Department, Community Life Improvement Program, better known as CLIP, and Philadelphia Parks and Rec, and the Office of Transportation and Infrastructure Systems. Each day, approximately 2,400 cases are entered responding into Philly 311's Customer Relations Management System. Our team is not only responding to calls and inquiries, but we are also going into the community to meet people where they are. Last year, Philly 311 Community Engagement Team participated in approximately 200 community events across the city. To provide callers with the most accurate and up-to-date information, relevant city departments supply 311 with essential details to create and maintain what we refer to as our knowledge base articles. These allow members of the Philly 311 team to provide callers with information they are inquiring about. The knowledge-based system also provides the call agents with the SLA service level agreements that the departments have provided us with. And that allows us to set a level of expectation with the caller. The knowledge-based articles serve as a key resource for addressing customer inquiries. Both information requests and service request dates are stored within our customer relations management system. To uphold quality standards, Philly 311 performs agent weekly call monitoring sessions, monthly calibration sessions, and we recently implemented and launched a customer survey, satisfaction survey at the end of calls that customers can take, which allows them to rate their interaction with Philly 311. In 2023, Philly 311 made several improvements to the service infrastructure, including automatic case routing, adding 6 new request types, implementing new a soft phone-based telephony system, which is software program used for making the telephone calls over the internet opposed to using a telephone, improving call management and overall efficiency. Additionally, Philly 311 has upgraded both its interactive voice response RVR system, which allows us to route calls, which has new prompts to assist callers with inquiries. For example, during the 2024 presidential election season, the Office of the City of Commissioners and Board of Elections forwarded their incoming calls to Philly 311 selection when we made a queue, election support queue. This enhancement helped to streamline call routing and reduce the call volumes that was going to the Office of City Commissioners and the Board of Elections, ensuring constituents receive timely and accurate information. To put that into perspective, during the 2024 presidential election, Philly 311 handled 20,862 calls over a 3-week period of time. We recognize that many times when residents call Philly 311, it is usually because there's a quality of life issue impacting them or their community, which can lead to frustration. That frustration can later lead to a passionate call to Philly 311. Being mindful of this, in 2024, Philly 311 delivered to its staff an emotional intelligence and customer service essential training, which was geared towards recognizing, understanding, and managing one's emotion while diffusing a frustrated caller from a constituent in order to find a solution on the call while ensuring we're providing exceptional customer service to the residents of Philadelphia. Philly 311 has since provided these trainings to multiple departments at their request. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you today. My colleagues and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to recognize that Jimmy Harity, Councilmember Jimmy Harity has joined us, so I'd also like to wish him a very happy birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to your committee hearing on your birthday. Appreciate that. Okay, yes, I've got, thank you so much for your testimony, really appreciate it. I worked for the city for many years and had multiple tours of the 311 call centers, and understand it. I was here when it was created, actually, so I understand it was, what was the intent when building it from the ground up. I have a couple of just basic questions to start with. In your testimony, you said you get 1,600 calls a day, but you enter 2,400 cases into the system. Can you explain the discrepancy in those numbers, where the rest of them are coming from? And then I'll stop there and go into the next one.
The remaining of that number is the cases that we get. We call them non-call cases.
Okay.
Those are the cases that come over the mobile app, through the internet, through web. So, you know, we not only are just answering the phones, we're also taking, you can, as your mobile app, and I'm sure many of your constituents can tell you about the mobile app, you can submit a request to us that way too. So that's the difference in the number.
So about 800 of those each day and 1,600 calls a day.
Correct.
Okay. So what kind of data do you have on the usage of the system through the phone call center versus on the app? What's the breakdown of how many contacts you have on the breakdown of the contacts you have on the phone versus the app? And do you have any demographic data or comparison between the two groups, phone versus app?
I can give you, in the calendar year of 2024, I can give you what we received as service requests, not necessarily the phone versus the non-calls, but I can get that information for you.
One of my questions is, what do you track? Why do you, as a matter of practice on your end, track and keep the data of the distinction between the calls, what they're asking for, where are they coming from, which council district, versus the app? Where are they coming from? Any demographics on that? What are they asking for?
Yes, we do keep that information, and I can get that for you. We also have, I believe last year, started sending to each council person, their district, what happens within their district, and in that report, I believe that it's outlined the calls, how much comes in online for us, and then what are the type of service requests or information requests being asked.
And do you follow through on that request to see what the result was? So you could tell a district council person, you know, we got 100 calls about these three things. Do you, as a call center, follow through to make sure that when they went to L&I and Parks and Rec and Streets, that they were resolved?
Unfortunately, we do not do that because we rely upon the servicing department. Once they get the information, that we send it immediately over to them, that they will assign it out to someone within their department. And then they will, once it's been completed, they will close out that ticket for us. If it's an information request, it's something that we're just, someone is calling and inquiring about something, and we're just documenting that for you.
Do you, when you send it to the department, when you send it to the department or agency, you mark it as closed, right?
No, we
No.
do not. The department and agency marks it as closed. So once they have finished doing whatever the service is, they mark it closed, and they also put a comment in the system, which if the constituent or customer has given their email address, that's how that is generated, and it tells them whatever the service and department has provided.
Do you mark it as transferred over to the system, to the department or agency?
Yes, there's a way for us to look at our system, and we know that it's been sent over and it's been received by the department.
Okay. And do you, maybe I'll stop here and let I'm going to stop for a minute, let somebody else have some questions. I've got a lot, so thank you so much. Councilmember Driscoll.
Thank you for your hard work. Couple things that I just want to wrap my hands around it a little bit. So the mayor started this new community outreach in every district. Is there any interaction between your department and these new units in each of the 10 councilmanic districts?
When they have a partner portal, they're in our partner portal, so whatever they submit in, it comes into 311 as well, and then excuse me, I'm sorry, Christina, can I just ask Christina to come up for a minute? Because I want to say this absolutely correct. She set this up. So it actually goes over to 311, and then 311 sends it over to the service and department that it should go to. That's the interaction that we have with the mayor's community team.
I'm just wondering if there's as this evolves, if there's a way that those community outreach offices can sort of be a part of your quality control. Like if they get a list by council district of what you're working on, what's closed, what's not closed, maybe they can put that within their sphere somehow without interfering with what you're doing. I don't know.
You know that it sounds, Councilman, reasonable, and it's something that I could definitely look into. It is not something that we currently do right now, other than the fact that when they take a service request and they're out in the community, it does go through our system, and that's where it's tracked. I do not know whether they have their own tracking system or not, because we don't interact like that. However, I know that they're in our partner portal.
So if let's say they get a complaint or they see something in the council district, are they entering it into 311, or are they contacting the different departments themselves?
No, they're entering it into 311, right?
They have the option to enter cases into our partner portal.
So it's an option.
Yes, they have user profiles created in our partner portal, so they do have access to it.
Okay. And then I guess the other you mentioned during the presidential election, now that we have a office in every council district, my hope is that those sort of requests wouldn't go through 311, that they would go right to the commissioner's office, and they would be staffed properly, so that it seems like you're busy enough instead of getting involved in every election. So I appreciate what you did. Not quite sure that was the right way to go there, but we can revisit that later.
Thank you. Councilmember Jimmy Harity.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I found it. You all right there? Good day. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine. How about you?
All right.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just kind of following up on my colleague. In my office, on multiple occasions, complaints placed by constituent service requests placed to 311 have come back unfounded. How do representatives determine that a case is unfounded? And how can we respond to constituents when there is no explanation provided for the type of case resolution?
When a constituent gets that, they can always call 311. In fact, we encourage them to call 311, and we will
But these are requests that were called into 311 but came back not
understand.
unfounded, but the issue is still going on.
I understand that, but we're not the one who puts in the unfounded. So if the constituent gets something like that, we encourage them to call 311. And what we will do is escalate and to say, hey, this constituent is saying that the issue is still there. We have very good working relationships with the servicing departments, and we will escalate it and ask, can you please go out and see what's going on with this? I believe, for example, in Councilmember Driscoll's district, we had a complaint where somebody was saying that it was a pathway being blocked by bushes. And they called, and we actually investigated to see. We asked CLIP to please go back out and see, because the constituent is saying, your constituent is saying, no, it's not cleaned up. And it actually was reading for the constituent that it wasn't founded. And CLIP went back out and sent me some pictures to show that it wasn't, and I sent it to the individual in your office, those pictures. So we encourage people to call us if what they are seeing is not what the reality is.
So our protocol would be to call you back when we get a response that says unfounded.
And we will escalate it for
Okay,
you.
and you will escalate. All right, great. All right, what's the average turnaround time on 311 requests? And
Each department has, and their service type has their own service level agreement. So it varies, and that's something that the servicing department decides how long it should take for a particular service to be completed, from the time that we put it in to the time that they complete that service.
so that would be the department, or
Yes, we don't make the service
or
level
service
agreement.
is something. Who is service? What department? Or does
Like
it
if we
depend
work
on
with-
what it is?
Right, it really
It'll be-
depends on what it is.
Okay, and then they would be responsible.
Yes,
That's what I'm getting at. All right. I think that'll do for now. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a lot of questions also. And I don't
We're
wanna
going to come
get
back
too
for a
far
round
into the
two, but in
weeds.
the meantime, Councilmember Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you, Jocelyn, for coming here today.
you're welcome.
This is a very important topic among residents in the city of Philadelphia, and I think we have the ability to get it right. Clearly, what's happening with 301 is not working all the way, and we have to find a way to make it work better for residents. I think, even in our office, I want us to be at 95, 99%, most of the time. And I think that, with 311, I'm not sure if we're at 90, 95, 99% all the time. And so one of the questions I have is about transparency. Is there a tracking system that allows Philly 311 to monitor whether departments are meeting their service level agreements?
That's a great question. So we're getting ready to implement with the various departments to have them look at their articles of knowledge for us, which include the service level agreement. We are going to provide them with what their current service level agreement is, and then what is the average business days to close, and then ask them to please look at it and see if this is realistic, or would you like to change it? If they do change it, then we will change it in our system as well. But right now, we know what it is, we just we're not, I'm not saying we're not, but it's nothing that's officially tracked. So I really want to change that as we go forward, move forward, because I think what we might need, what needs to be done is the SLAs need to be reviewed again. So we're working along with Philly Stat 360 to do this as well.
Great. And then, I see what you're saying, but I just want to just quickly follow up with the fact that if there, we probably, once they come up with their service level agreements, that it might say what's more realistic, it still needs, the tracking system is going to be there. That's going to be needed for them.
The tracking will, and I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
say that. That's why we would do it.
Okay.
And we want to launch this because there will be a tracking system in
Okay,
place.
there will be. Thank you. The next question is, what consequences, if any, exist for departments that repeatedly fail to follow through on service requests?
I'm going to be completely honest with you, councilperson. I'm not working in those departments. What I would be doing is going right to the head. Here's what we're seeing.
Gotcha.
And is there anything that we can do to help? But that's out of 311. We're not an operations department. So therefore, for us to step in and say, oh, you should be able to do this in X amount,
Yeah.
that's not us.
That's something to think about, right? We as public officials, we have consequences. Our staff members have consequences. It's just the idea of, I think that even the folks who are supposed to be serving the folks publicly, these administrative departments, there needs to be some sort of level of consequences as well. That's nothing for you to work on, I guess.
And can
per
I
se.
interject this right here?
Yeah.
I will say this, since I have been with Philly 311, I do see where the service departments are really, really concerned about meeting those service level agreements and trying to make sure that they hit them. So I just want to make sure that I'm conveying that it's not something that I think they don't want to do. It's just for whatever reason. And sometimes they are very good at meeting them. There are some things that they're under the service level. So if they say it takes 5 days, they may be able to do that in 3 days. And that's the average that we do, because we will look at that individually sometimes just to pull it to see where the city is at. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. And I just have one more question. Can you provide data on how frequently service requests are completed within the expected time frame versus those that experience delays? And then also the 311 customer satisfaction is important. Are there ongoing efforts to improve that customer satisfaction? Like if someone's upset, are we, do we call them back, or how do we evaluate, if they're telling you that they're not happy, how do you reach back out to them, or you just compile that data on your own and figure out what to do?
So the latter first, when we get the survey results every day from the day before, and right now I think we're at a 91%, 93% satisfaction rate within the city of Philadelphia. If we do find that there's a call that is rated, you either get a 1 for yes, they like the experience, or 2, no, you do not, they disliked it. Then that call is listened to by one of the supervisors, that person's supervisor, the agent's supervisor. They actually monitor that call, they score the call. If they find that there was something wrong with the call, the agent is then coached. If this is consistent, then a disciplinary action, that path starts with the agent. If it's a yes, we do the hooray and you did a great job. If it's a no, we will also, the manager, the supervisor, or the agent, if we feel you need to call that person back and you need to make this right,
Thank you.
okay?
Thank you.
That's what
Yeah.
we're doing.
Thank you. I just want to say, appreciate you coming out today. This hopefully, from this, we can find ways to get better. Because, even, a lot of our offices, we're always constantly figuring out like, hey, we did right for this month. How do we get better next month? It's every time this is about us improving for residents in the city. And our hope is that, you and your leadership and every rest of your team can take this and, figure out like how to continue to get better. Because I'll tell you with the unfounded situation, I had years ago, before council, I had an issue, paint spilled in my driveway, sanitation did it, and I put a 311 request, and it did come back under its unfounded. I think it's only because maybe it was the wrong address per se. It might have been one house over as opposed to, and I'm like, are these people, like, if even I had the wrong address, like, if you just look in the vicinity, I feel like if it's not the exact T, they'll just say unfounded. It's like, are we being efficient, in that particular way? So I feel like there needs to be a conversation between 311 and the department saying that, hey, there's going to be times where our residents may not have the exact address or the exact corner, but just do your best to just do the entire area, circumvent the entire area for the issue. And so we don't have to call you to go back out there again. So that's it. Thank you.
Just a real quick point of clarification before I move on to Councilmember O'Rourke. For the 311 survey data that you're saying happens with the calls, are you asking people, are they satisfied with 311 services or the resolution of their problem?
311 services, and the reason that I went that way, because when I started, there was nothing to ask how 311 was doing. So, we're citizens of the city, as these are our neighbors, these are our friends, these are our family members. And we always heard something negative. I know for myself, it was always something very negative for 311. And then once I got into this position and started working for 311, I said, wow, these guys really do a lot during the course of the day. So I wanted a way to measure, what is your interaction? Is my agent professional? When they answer your question, do they seem to have the knowledge that you're supposed to? What is your wait time? That's the question that we kind of tank on a lot, but it depends on when you take that survey, because our wait times vary based on the time of day. So from 11 to 2, you may have a wait because a lot of people are on lunch and they're trying to get to 311. So there's this influx of calls coming in. However, you may call at 2:30, 3 o'clock, and you can get right through to us because people are at work and not as many people are trying to get to 311. Also, if there's a city event, like a large fire, and then they're saying call 311. Anything that happens in this city and it is said call 311, it impacts our call volume. And those we have no control over. So that's why I put in place and we just launched this. So it's very, very new, but we've been, I'm happy with the 93% because I've been doing call centers for a very long time. 85 to 90 is usually where people will kind of end up at. So I'm very happy with the 93%, and we're working towards making it better. That's why we listen to these calls that we're not getting scored well on, to find out what the problem is. Is it an agent problem? Is it an information problem? Or is it the person who's on the phone? Because people don't like to hear no, or they don't like to hear us say, we can't do this, but because we always try to give them an option. Here's what we can do for you, so.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Councilmember O'Rourke.
Thank you, Chairperson Landau, and good morning,
Good morning.
Director Jones. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. Member Phillips already kind of hit on my first question, but if you could, if you don't mind, could you actually walk us through the procedures around the service level agreements for updating these agreements and any timelines and policies that are actually involved?
The servicing department will reach out to us and say, okay, here's a change to our knowledge-based administrator. Here's a change. This is what we want to update. And then we update it almost immediately, as quickly as we possibly can, send it back to, and many times send it right back to the servicing department for approval. And then it is put into our knowledge base as a live article. We have some that are archived, which are older articles that no longer are applicable. However, we don't want to lose that information. So we'll keep them as an archived article. And that's how we update. If it's something where it's new, they will get in contact with Christina. Christina will get all parties together. Let's figure out what it is that you want to do. What do you want that article to say? We need the key components because our agents, for the most part, are on the phone. So they can't have 50 pages of one thing. So like with trash pickup, you know, my trash should have been picked up on Tuesday. It's been missed. And the agent is writing all of this down. It's now Thursday. It was missed. Everybody else on the block, trash was picked up. That is then something that we would put into the article really quickly for the knowledge-based article. And then when the agent goes to use it, we have drop downs. We have every way that we can possibly help that agent to go through a script. And they just have to kind of read it and check off what's correct, what's accurate, and then at the end of that call, we will recap what you've told us. And I know I'm going a little bit further than what you asked, but at the end of the call, we recap to the customer or the caller exactly what it is that you told us, and we will give you the service request number. Now, the important thing, I think, is for us to know is that if a customer decides they want to stay anonymous or they do not want to give us an email address, there's absolutely no way for us to, for them to get updates other than calling 311. You can always call in if you have the service request number. We can give you an update.
It's never too much to give more of an answer. It's super helpful in terms of clarity that we're looking for. So thank you for that. Our office hears, and the data plainly shows, that 311 ticket closure rates are seasonal, with the lowest rates coming in the fall and the winter months. Can the panel talk, anyone really, talk about how data from 311 is used in their department to identify goals and address challenges?
To identify goals for us?
Yes, well, yes, related to the issues that are being raised in terms of what we're hearing.
Good question. I gotta really think about,
I could say that when it comes to some winter months as far as calls, we get a lot.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, can you state your name for the
Oh,
record?
I'm sorry, my name's Christina McDonald.
Hello, Ms. McDonald.
So there are certain times of the year where we get specific calls. For example, in February, we get a lot of calls related to licenses and renewals based off of when the license renewal process is taking place. So we may get an influx of calls, which will, so we know that, so it'll allow the call center to prepare, make sure that our knowledge-based articles for that specific thing are updated in preparation to take those calls.
and this year when that happened, we cross-trained, and we will do that, cross-train other agents so they can jump on. We have a L&I line Those calls, for instance, can be 20 minutes long. But we will, because people want us to hand walk them through, and we're fine with that because we realize that license and inspection is is going to bring some revenue into the city. So we will handheld walk you through the system if you call in, because most people who are calling in are either contractors or people who are about to do some work. So not that we don't treat our other customers with the same, but you know, a lot of times people kind of look at how long it takes for us to do a call for license and inspection.
So thank you for that. And if I may, the part around the closure rates happening in the fall and winter months speaks to us because it probably has something to do with heat or whatever, addressing some physical concern that I think should be, weighted along the same lines as revenue driving matters. So to the degree that you could, if I could be so forward as to advise or suggest that you do use all of that information to try to, figure out how best to form fit your services to all the issues that citizens are calling about. Thank you just the same for your work and all that you do for our city. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yep, Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the monthly reports that we receive. I think it's important for our offices as districts to understand the number of calls that are coming, what they're for. We know there's challenges sometimes with either duplicate 311 calls, people calling several times for the same issue, or people calling back for the same issue. But what we try to do is when we do get that or get that complaint is actually share the 311 number with the department also, so the department knows that, all right, they closed this, yet the people say it's still there, or it's unfounded and it's still there. Because it's sometimes as a reporting agency, you see it's closed, you think it's closed, you don't know what the department did. But the people think 311 closed it, so it's your fault, right?
Absolutely.
And I think so. I think what we need to do is work a little closer with the departments that are closing those things and how we could coordinate better with 311 and the end result for the client at the end of the day to see what happened. Because our instincts, all right, well, let's see what happened first before we start casting blame, right? Is there a way when that issue is closed, or you send it, say, to Streets Department, or you send it to L&I, right? And then they have a way of then saying, unfounded, got there. You don't know, can we require them to say unfounded, couldn't get in location, or unfounded? Because when it says unfounded, we don't know what happened. Did they just go there and nobody was there, they couldn't get in? Say it was a rental license, for instance, and they knocked on the door and nobody was home, so they don't know whether they still have a rental license, right?
That is something, and a great observation. That is something that we are working towards, and we're going to work towards with our servicing departments to make the comment clearer, because if you think it's a challenge for you, have somebody screaming on the phone, and my agent is, what this is. And we're running around trying to figure out, okay, what does this mean? That we need a little bit more clarity on it. So we are working, and the servicing departments are great. They noted that we have to get it a little bit more detailed for the customer.
Or do we have to add a field? Do you have to add another option for the service department to put something in, right? Or just a lot of times when you see something closed, it could say filled pothole, closed, right? Or something like that, just not closed, because you don't know if it's closed. Did anything happen? Did they not find it? Sometimes you don't know.
What we're actually, the first thing that you said, we're asking for more clarity. We will be asking for more clarity in the comment. And then we are also asking, if you did do something, tell us what it was when it's closed. And we know, because we go through those 200 engagements I said we do. These are the same questions that we get from your constituents when we're at their community events. And so for us also, education is a big thing. And this is why we go out in the community so often, so that we can educate your constituents. Okay, if you do see us closed and you don't understand why, call us. Call us. You can always call us back now. And once we explain that, you know, people, oh, okay, I didn't realize that I could. Yes, you can always call us back. So,
I want to follow up on this line of thought here, because I think this is what we're looking at here is the key to helping you make 311 even more. The chair recognizes Isaiah Thomas, Councilmember Isaiah Thomas. This is the way in which we can make this more efficient. So when we talked about your survey that you're doing at the end of the calls, and that's to see how 311 did during the call process. I would suggest most people don't really have a problem except a wait time with how friendly you are on the phone, or, you know, did you help walk them through a process. People are very frustrated that after they lodge a complaint, either through calls or online, that their situation is not resolved, and it's been deemed resolved in the system. So there they are looking at the pothole. The pothole has been found as unfounded. There's the only word they have is unfounded. And they're still looking at a pothole at the end of the day. I think for the city of Philadelphia, the way to make the system the most efficient is for you as 311 to have the information from the department immediately upon the resolution of the request that found pothole, we'll have it filled in 1 week, done. And that way it also gets immediately tracked through the service number to the resident. The reason why is we keep saying you keep saying they can call us back. You already have 1,600 calls a day. You don't need 1,800, 2,000. And in fact, maybe those 1,600 calls could go down to 1,200, maybe even 1,000, if there was a really great way for people to have their information at their fingertips. And I think, I really do think this is the way the city needs to move, because if not, we're also double tracking data, right? You've got the streets department who's now counting how many potholes they had, how many they filled, and you've got 311 who can look up, these are how many calls we had for potholes, and some word that calls it resolved, whether or not it is. Do those numbers match? I don't know. If they don't match, we're miscounting and double counting something that can so easily be put in one particular place.
I believe that as things are closed, maybe not in real time, like if you close a pothole right now, that person without who's in the streets department, without some sort of technology, I think you have to get back to the office. I do not know. I do not work for the streets department, but I do know that this information is entered into the system. And that's how, you know, for real time, I think they would need some sort of technology. This is just me saying that they would need to have something with them to enter into the system that this pothole has been filled, you know, and it would timestamp it or whatever, and then it would come into. However, the other thing is to remember, if the constituent decides that they don't want to give us their contact information, they won't get any information. That's the only way for us to do it. Once the servicing department says that it's closed, for whatever reason it is closed, if we have an email address, that email goes out, it generates an email stating what happened. That too looks like it's coming from 311, so you're right on time, they call 311, so it's 311's problem. If it wasn't done, it's 311's fault. But that email is the other thing that notifies the customer that, hey, this was closed, and for whatever reason it was closed, that the servicing department provides. So I would say it would be some technology that might, and I'm not in any of those departments, so I don't know, budgetary, none of that. Okay. But that's how you would get it real time that I've seen it other places done, where people have like an iPad or something that they can walk around with, and when they fill things or fulfill whatever that request is, they can right then put it in the system.
Seems like it's perfect opportunity to hear from some of the departments. Can you please state your name for the record?
Good morning, Chair. Aubrey Powers. I am a Deputy Managing Director for Community Service with the Managing Director's Office. And one thing I wanted to share with the committee is that we are exploring ways in which we can really improve that coordination between departments. And, I'm hearing the themes just as you have all seen in regards to that next step, that follow-up. And so we are right now at this very moment in the process of exploring mechanisms for those sort of urgent, non-emergency services, which really heavily impact the quality of life for our constituents. So just as you stated at the very top, how can we better ensure that our constituents are receiving help instead of frustration? And so that's sort of a level above, where 311 is at this very moment. But it's work that right now we're very heavily involved in, exploring what can work best here.
Thank you for that. I think it would be helpful if we had some of the departments come up now so we can understand what's happening when the request gets to their end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Richard Montanez, Deputy Commissioner of Streets. So as stated, we do receive 311 depending on the problem. We do have specific SLAs for each one of those. For example, potholes are within 3 days. I do want to remind council, not all potholes are the same. Most of the times when we get complaints are not potholes, are actually plumber's ditches that were improperly filled or done without the streets department notices. So that does take us longer to do. As a matter of fact, on my right here today from our traffic shop, I ran into 5 of them. So it is not uncommon to see, so everybody calls, but we do want them to call. We're not denying it. We do switch it on our system when they do come in. What we do is every morning we generate our work log, the crews get routed a certain way, and those problems get fixed, whether it be potholes, street lights, traffic signals, signage, line striping, paving. So we line up the work every day, and we utilize the 311 system to do our work.
Do you have one person who is the liaison to 311 from Streets?
You're talking to him.
Okay. And at the end of the day, how do you determine when do you consider an issue resolved?
So when we close the tickets is when the issue gets resolved. Once Streets Department closes it on their side, then 311 gets a close on theirs. There are some, within Streets it gets a little complicated, whether it's a state road, whether SEPTA property or other issues that are out there. But when we close it in our system is when 311 sees it close on theirs.
Do you close, we're using potholes as an example, do you close a pothole concern when the pothole is filled or when you determine that there's a pothole to be filled?
When the pothole is filled, the crews have paperwork. So every day they take out the paperwork. There is a clerical person in every one of our districts that their entire job is just to input and close out those 311 requests on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you. I want to recognize Councilmember Jimmy Harity.
How's everybody going today?
Good.
All right. So these holes are a problem, especially the ones done by contractors illegally. I have a bill that gets voted on final passage this week. It will pass which gives us an avenue to go after these bad actors, the contractors. We know it's a big problem. I just was a little confused of you guys didn't support the bill. Streets Department actually testified against it. So just wondering why you guys know that this problem is rampant and that most of these things are being done by some of the same people over and over again. So just curious to why you guys felt the need that this bill wasn't needed when you're saying it's one of our biggest problems.
In reference to your bill, most of the bad actors are the ones not getting the permits.
That's the whole idea of things. That if they get a permit,
They-
that's why the bill fines them when we catch them, because they're easy to catch. Because most of the neighbors who actually they're doing the work for paid for a permit in their their contract. It's just
So you're right, council member, when we go and
I'm a
ask.
highway worker too.
Yes.
You remember that, right?
Yes, but when we go and ask the resident who had the work done, who did the work, they won't give us a contractor.
Well, that's why we made a law, and
I need to understand who the contractor is in order to stop all the permits in
this
both
gives us an
streets.
avenue. That's what I'm saying. It's okay. It's another day. Thank you. Thanks, brother.
Maybe you're from another department. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Good morning. I'm Ralph DePietro, Deputy Commissioner for the Quality of Life Department. Very briefly, L&I utilizes 311s in a variety of fashion, not just as the front door to our services through the complaint process, but we also utilize them to sort of answer the more typical and mundane questions about how do I get a permit, where's my local district office. So there's a lot of functionality and things that 311 provides for us. Complaints are probably the number one for at least the quality of life side of L&I. Since we deal with them, we get the majority of the department's complaints through 311. If you like, I can sort of summarize how our systems interact, if it'll be helpful. So basically, a service request comes into 311, whether their call takers take it or someone goes on the app or whatever. That's then transferred to our system, Eclipse, as a complaint. There's four sort of steps, or there's 4 points where we go back to 311 with a status. The first one, we're going to do a review. So the complaint's going to come in, it's going to get assigned typically to an inspector. And the way that happens is each complaint is given a complaint code. Complaint code may be property maintenance exterior. That goes to one inspector. The complaint code may be working without a permit, go to a different inspector. So the complaint code's assigned, goes to the inspector does a review, determines it's an L&I complaint, it's something that we're responsible for, and that's the first interaction. It lets the system know, okay, it's been reviewed. The next step is it's been assigned, an inspector has been assigned to. Now, the reason we have that separate step is sometimes the inspector that receives it may not be the person responsible for following up on that complaint, where the complaint may have some portions of it that are, for a real common one, someone would say, well, a building isn't licensed and it's collapsing. Well, we don't want the license inspector to do that. We want that to go to the inspectors that handle collapses, right? Because obviously that's much more pressing. So there's this sort of assigned process that happens. And then the next one is probably the one that causes, I would think, the most angst for folks, because the next one is really the perform investigation or the completed process. And this is where an inspector goes out and or researches and takes an action on the particular complaint. When I say perform investigation, that may be, hey, we already have an existing case that deals with this particular complaint. So we'll attach that complaint to the existing case. The inspector may go out and say, this is unfounded, and I think this is where the angst really ramps up here. In that case, it returns back a status to 311 or to Salesforce that the complaint is closed. I'll get back to that in a minute. And then the other one would be, yep, there's a violation here, we're going to issue notices of violation. So those notices of violation, that at that point, the anticipation is, well, everything LNI does goes directly onto our website. Almost 100% of our work is publicly available. It's completely transparent. So folks could go to the LNI website, or even the city's website, the Atlas, phila.gov, and plug in the address and see the violations that have been written. They can sort of follow along. I think it's probably helpful to spend some time on the unfounded, because that's, again, where the angst is. So complaints can be unfounded for a lot of reasons. The most common one is the inspector goes out, and whatever that thing is not in violation of the code. A very typical one will be someone say, hey, there's a lot of people living in this house. It must be an illegal rooming house. An inspector goes out and says, no, that's just a big family. That's unfounded. It could result in a violation. It's a big family, but they don't have a rental license. So that violation is not necessarily tied to that complaint, although the complaint is what initiated the inspection or the investigation. So unfounded, and just for a sense of scale, I'm sorry I don't have the actual numbers, but about a third of all the complaints we receive are unfounded. For quality of life, that's around 20-some thousand a year. Happy to provide the specific numbers if you like, but that's about 20,000 or so complaints every year. So a third of those are unfounded, and as long as I've been with the department, that's been the case. And so we've done a lot of different things in order trying to figure out how to better manage that. But for purposes of this, I think that's the unfounded is where folks sort of say, hey, I can see that there's a lot of people living in this house. Why didn't they write it? Why did they write a violation or cease it or do some other thing?
Thank you for that. We would love that data. That would be very helpful for us. To both of you, do you use the notes function in 311 to put in a short description of the final resolution of the case?
Well, I can, all the work we do, in fact, there's a subtlety here that's kind of important, because all the work we do with respect to the complaint we get from 311 is done on what's called a case file. So if you remember the 4 stages I sort of laid out, review, assign, perform investigation, at that perform investigation, the inspectors determine this is an LNI complaint. Yes, this is something that I would handle individually. Let me go out there. They create a case file. That case file can result in no violation found or actual notices of violation. So all the work from that point forward is done in the case file in our system, Eclipse. And at certain points, at certain benchmarks, it's transferred over to 311. And I would be lying if I told you what that looks like on their end. I haven't not seen that in many, many years. But it's transferred over to say, hey, we've issued a notice of violation, or there's been a cease operation or something like that. So we don't really input anything directly into 311. It's done through an interface between Eclipse and Salesforce.
Streets Department uses CityWorks to track all their work orders, and there is an interface between CityWorks and Salesforce.
What was that again, CityWorks?
CityWorks.
CityWorks?
It's our database, internal database, how we track our stuff.
Does anyone from either of your offices ever meet with 311 even on an annual basis?
We have monthly meetings with 311.
We do as well.
Go for it. Chair recognizes Councilmember Driscoll.
And Ralph, it's good to see you again. I work with Mr. Montanez a lot more than I get to interact with you now. I guess maybe you both can answer this separately. What's the volume on a, say, annual basis of complaints or tickets comes into LNI, and what the volume comes into Streets Department?
What's the annual intake?
How many actual issues are you working on per year, on average?
I would have to look that up. I mean, we get any complaints from street lights to potholes to plumber's ditches to line striping, so traffic signals. So each of them is individually tracked, and we would have to add them all up of what we respond to. We also respond to when 311 is just an issue in the right-of-way, and it gets classified as others. So specific numbers I don't have. I will have to go back and run the numbers on the previous year to give you a count.
Yeah, I was just curious. Ralph, do you have an idea?
I could say last year we were close to 60,000 potholes, correct, fixed in the city of Philadelphia, and we're trending in that way right now.
And as I mentioned, I'll provide that data more specifically for L&I as a whole, and then we can break down between the two. But I'm confident that it's in the 20,000s. It's very typically 25, 26,000. It goes up and down, and it is somewhat cyclical. So as the wintertime sets in, we sort of see fewer. As spring shows up, complaints explode.
Because your offices you're getting, the 311 notifications. You're getting the council folks notifications to your office. Now you're getting the Office of Community Services, community engagement, and they're reaching out to you. And then some of it's probably duplicative. And so when you open that ticket, you can recognize, let's say all three of us, say a council office calls you, Office of Community Engagement, and 311. You'll know right away that you're already working on that issue?
Yeah, we look at the address that got provided, and if it's a similar problem, close enough address, we tend to group them together. But there's always an inspector that goes to verify to make sure that it's the same issue. It's not a clerk that groups them together. It's actually the field inspector out there who groups them together.
Okay.
And we do. We see who the complainant is if they provide that information. And then the inspector is typically assigned to that area will then look at the address as part of their research of the complaint, and they'll typically be able to say, oh, there's an existing case file. That's why we have that functionality that allows us to put complaints, to attach them to existing case file, which is super important. I know we say it all the time, calling 311 is important, but in terms of for an enforcement, a regulatory agency, it's super important because it's very helpful to be able to, in many of these cases, these become legal challenges. As I said, a third of the cases or complaints are unfounded. When we issue case files, over a third of those, actually, of the case files we issue in total, go to court. So it's helpful to say, look, this isn't just, if you think about what L&I does, this is a very common misunderstanding. One of L&I's roles is to sort of address public nuisances, right? If I hate my neighbor, that's a private, well, it's a lot of things, but that's a private nuisance, right? When we get complaints from 15 different people and a council person, that's really helps our case that this is an actual public nuisance. It's a lot more than just this is a neighbor dispute. And to the courts, that's important information.
I mean, and Jocelyn, I think, said it earlier, that the folks that are calling us, they're our neighbors, they're our relatives, they're our friends, they're citizens. And then we're all city employees, and we kind of all get bunched together as the city is efficient or the city's not efficient, right? And fairly or unfairly, we get judged on that. And so our intention today wasn't to point fingers to agencies or say we're not getting to things quick enough. We just want to be able to provide the resources that your departments need and communicating with the 311 department as we move into this budget season. We want to make sure that we're prioritizing the city dollars to make sure that we can help L&I, we can help the streets department, we can help 311 where we can, because the time to have that conversation is the next couple months. So thank you for being here.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Jimmy Harity.
Thank you again. Just a question for L&I. I get people calling my office telling me they were kicked out of Eclipse. So what would cause somebody to be kicked out of Eclipse, so that I understand that part? And that then, like if they have multiple properties or something like a multiple businesses, if they're kicked out of the system, they can't do anything with other stuff. Like say they have fines on other properties that they're trying to play. When they're kicked out of the Eclipse system, they can't even get to their other properties. Can you explain how that works?
Sure. So there's a couple reasons. Some are like technical reasons. You set up an account, you forget your password. There's those sort of things. Typically when folks, at least in my experience, when folks get a stop at L&I at Eclipse, it's likely because there's a tax issue. In fact, the overwhelming majority of the time, that's what it is. The system was designed, if you remember, for those council members that have been here for a bit, You remember back in the day, it used to drive everyone nuts that we would be issuing permits to somebody who was insanely tax delinquent. It's a tough explanation to make. So Eclipse was designed to sort of catch those things. And one of the things that we did, that we built into the system, is this functionality that allows us to sort of expand, right? We had to make a decision very early on in the Eclipse adoption that we were not going to let perfect be the enemy of the good, right? And that sounds defeatist in some ways, but it was necessary because a lot of those IT projects derail because they're just, they try to design the perfect system, and in reality, they drive themselves into just static and circular logic. So Eclipse was designed to check these kinds of things, and very often that's what happens. In fact, I can tell you the very first year that we implemented Eclipse, just the licensing alone, at last count it was about $5 million of back taxes were brought in, just licensing. So you can imagine what it is in permitting and things. So most of the time, it's a tax or revenue issue, super complicated. You know, you have to contact the revenue department. 301's been very helpful in that, and being able to give folks, hey, here's how you get a new password if you lost your password or you forgot it, whatever it may be. But revenue is the most common one in my experience.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I wanted to go back to, you said you each meet with 311 once a month. What do you discuss in those meetings?
Well, I believe our meetings are actually quarterly, but so there are a couple of different things. One of them is, so there's always a time to sort of talk about, hey, these are the things we're seeing. And I think someone had asked the question about how do we use 311 data as sort of in operating the department. We use it a lot. We use it incorrect. I think it might even surprise 311 how often we look at that data and say, do we have enough personnel? Are we getting a lot of these complaints? Do we need to do something in terms of like a program inspection? We use that data quite often. And so we'll talk about some of the things like the trends that are emerging. Because 311 sort of operates like the front door, they got a real good idea of what's going on in various communities. So that's the first thing. The other thing that we'll talk about are like technical challenges. You know, where to find information. Talk about building the knowledge base. There's usually a section where they'll put in, and the result of this is sort of a report that we look at after the meeting is concluded, and there'll be a section where they'll say, hey, here's some sort of random comments we've gotten from the public about the performance, what happened, like what Ellen and I did. Usually they're negative, but surprisingly, it's not that the city agencies didn't perform, it's that they didn't get the right information. And that's not 311's fault. Some of that is Ellen and I's fault, but it's also very difficult to explain very complex processes in a short sort of text box. So that we're looking at a couple different things to sort of abate that. But those quarterly meetings sort of take that same format. Then a document's produced, it's sent out, and we use that for some decision making. Hey, is there something going on here that we need to be considering? Do we have the right people in the room? Because for a department like L&I, it's very diverse, right? You have a sort of, on one side, you have the construction, permitting, and the plan review, whole separate set of problems. And the other side, you have the quality of life stuff, which is the complaints, rental property stuff, things like that. So sometimes you need to get different people in the room to sort of brainstorm or figure out what this means or what's happening. So it's an ongoing conversation, and I think it's really valuable to us both as a department and individually, sort of we can get better understanding of what the public perception is or what the public concerns are.
Commissioner Montanez?
Yeah, we use it for the same thing, Ralph. We tend to look at trends. We do know the upticks on pothole season, on block party permits, things. We use our monthly meetings just to compare this month to last month to last year, just to see where we stand, what's trending up, what's trending down. An interesting one was when we were having issues getting material for our streetlights, that we saw an uptick of streetlights, that we had over 10,000 streetlights out in the city of Philadelphia. That was a monthly discussion with 311, and what we were trying to do is obviously reduce the 311 calls. Although we had 10,000 lights out, I think 311 saw over 20,000 calls come in for streetlights being out. So we do tend to take a look at that, and like Commissioner Ralph said, it also shows that where we need manpower or where we need additional help to meet our service level.
Thank you. Any questions for these? Thank you so much. Can we have Director Jones back up, though? Thank you. Thank you so much for coming back up, Director Jones. Can you please state your name for the record again?
Jocelyn Jones, Executive Director of 311.
Thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit more about, let's go back to the questioning that we heard with the departments. You have these meetings with them. Who do you report, do you have monthly meetings with somebody in the administration? Who do you report to and who do you bring your findings to?
We all are in these monthly meetings. I believe on both sides, it's mostly the management teams of the various departments. And so there isn't one person that I meet with personally. I'm in those meetings, I'm listening or interjecting. From a 311 perspective, I also have someone who facilitates these meetings who is very, very good at what he does, and that is our knowledge-based administrator who knows what these articles talk about, and he's also the one who's putting decks, because we literally do a deck every month and send it out and then ask for agenda items or let the departments know this is what we're going to be talking about. So short answer is no, not directly with one person, but
Do you meet with the mayor's office?
no, I do not as of now.
Who do you report
I'm sorry, Aubrey Powers, Deputy Managing Director for Managing Director's Office, Jocelyn and the team and our servicing departments as well have been working with our Philly Stat 360 team out of the mayor's office that has been, examining these issues to see just how we can improve our ticket closure.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question, okay? I'm sorry.
Before Philly Stat 360 was coming into place, who did you report to before Philly Stat 360?
The Managing Director's Office and directly into Tumar.
Great.
And Orlando Raridan was the Aubrey for me.
I realize now I was asking the wrong trajectory up to ask the question. Okay. I'm really looking for who's overseeing 311, which is our call center for the city of Philadelphia. It's so important that we launch this entity where anybody can call in and their problem can be sent to the right department or agency to handle it. There's, should be resolved and a message coming back to them. And I was curious how you were reporting that information up, who was overseeing your work.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. And then just in terms of your chain of command, I myself meet regularly with Jocelyn, and so where issues are needed to be escalated, I can escalate those myself or directly from the managing director's office or with the managing director himself. So that's basically how that chain of command operates or works.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I wanted to get back to the app again, because I think we do have a generational difference between who's using the app and who's making the calls. And I wanted to know, how does that work on your staff end? If we could drill down a little bit for the requests coming through the app versus the phone, and how they are also getting sent out to the departments or agencies.
The phone, you're calling, you're telling us what you want. The app, we got to the citizen has to go through and fill out the different fields that are on the app. And so one of the things that for us, Christina will probably love that I say this to you, the app does not allow us to do everything you can do on the phone. So you have to do other and then just kind of describe. So that app, once you do it through the app, then it comes into our system, and then an agent works it. We have agents who that's all, in our hierarchy, those are agents who are more skilled, they've been with 311 longer, they know the system. So those agents will actually work those cases and make sure that they go to the correct department. Our goal is to make sure that we are no more than 24 hours behind. So like today, we're on today's date of working these cases. Sorry, I don't know exactly how many we have, but I know yesterday when we walked in, we had maybe about 600 that were yesterday's date. And we measure this by the date and the actual hours from the oldest case that we're working. Once that case is put in, it generates an email that goes out as long as the customer has provided us with contact information, and it will go out to that person, an email telling them what your service request number is and exactly what we did. Now, say a case comes in and the agent's looking at it and saying, I'm not quite sure what this person is saying. If we have a phone number, we will call or we will email and say, we got your request. We have questions, and if they do it in an email, they'll ask for what the question is. They'll actually do it. If they end up having to call, we prefer to do it via email, because we find that people who use that mobile app, that's their computer, that's the technology, this is what, younger people are using today. So we know that it's very, very popular. So we try to stay with the same communication channel that you reached out to us with.
And so somebody creates the request in the app, includes their email address, and is there, you'll send the email like you would also for the call as well. You're asking in the call center for people's emails. You'll give them a basic ticket number and an update through the email, right? How does somebody from the app escalate their request?
Chris, do we have a certain, I need her, because I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Christina McDonald. For the app, mobile or web, if a customer receives that closed email alert stating that their case was closed and they'll get the last comment that was put on the case, if they reply to that email, or if they put a comment on the mobile app on their ticket, that comment will come back into 311 and get routed. That case is then routed to an agent to review that comment and then respond.
Do you ever keep the same agent on the same case?
We do not. Any cases are routed based off of availability. So the agent who is available to take that ticket will respond to that case.
And that allows us to make sure that the cases are flowing, quickly through the system, so there's no wait or lag time. Because if I put a ticket in and Christina already has 4 cases waiting in her queue, and then I'm doing an escalation, and it's Christina who originally worked on it, she's going to have to wait. That ticket's going to have to wait till she gets through those other 4, where I could be sitting there with 2, and so I can get to that ticket quicker.
Okay. Thank you. What are typical service level requests from departments and agencies? Are they time of how long the department should take to close an issue, close a case? Is it, maybe just tell me, what's
it's usually
in general?
it's measured in days, and it's how long it should take for that service to be performed from the date and time that we receive it and get it over to them, and until when they should close it, when it should be closed.
a lot of the constituents that call our office and talk to us about 311 believe that in order to meet the service level requests, cases are being deemed closed sooner than the issue is actually resolved. And they believe it's because they're trying to get to the goal of, I did this in 3 days versus the resolution. It might be perception, but that's
Yeah,
what a lot of the folks feel.
I think there might be more perception because the two largest service and departments that we work with are both here. And I can tell you, I do not believe that they're just closing cases to meet a service level, a SLA.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilperson Jimmy Harity.
Thank you. On that note, that leads right in here. I got a case right here with the tracking number from 311 with a status of closed. Date requested was October 17th, 2024. There was a maintenance complaint, tires. Said it was closed, but the neighbors say that the tires are still there. I have a number and all.
What is the number? Service request number? Do you have that?
Service request number is 172099725.
I can look that up for you.
Date requested was October 17th, 2004.
On 24?
Yeah, 1724, October 24. Yeah. There was a maintenance complaint, L&I license inspection, resolution, case concluded.
And it was closed when? I'm sorry.
Doesn't have a date of closed. It just has date requested on my maintenance, 3500 Wharton Street, 19146. Maintenance complaint, department, license and inspection, resolution, case closed.
We can look it up, and I won't be able to tell you today, but I can definitely reach out to your office to tell you what we
It's
see.
fine as long as you get what we're getting at. which
Yeah,
is, this is what we're dealing with here. For us, it's a bigger mistake than just somebody, 311 having it. Once we get involved and we tell a person, okay, they did it, and then it wasn't done.
His credibility.
Right, it's our credibility, it's our thing, you know what I mean? You told me it was done, I got home from work today and you know what I'm saying? So, we need to figure out how we make the system better for everybody. This is not, and listen, I think you all do a fantastic job. It's just questions because we're getting it. And for me, quite frankly, I'm new, so I'm still trying to learn too. So I want to know what the processes are and all that stuff. But for us, this is a problem. When something says that it's unfounded, and I've been out there and there's trash everywhere, there's a disconnect. When something says it's been closed, it's been done, and it hasn't been done, that's an issue for us. So that's all we're trying to get at is how can we, as Mike said, my colleague, Councilman Driscoll, how can we be helpful? What do we do? What do we have to do to improve the system? Does it take more money? Does it take another system? How do we link all the systems up together so you guys aren't having to do a bunch of different steps? You know what I'm saying? In order to track and keep up. Seems to me that right now we have about 3 systems that I've written down for one complaint. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of, unless those systems are linked, I get it. It doesn't, it's not going to show in your system if they completed it in Eclipse. You know what I'm saying? So just trying to figure out what we have to do to try to fix the problem, because for us, it's about the constituent.
I completely understand, and I'm very, very grateful that you guys are even looking into and trying to help us resolve the service and departments along with 311 how we can make the
Listen,
system better.
the theory's fantastic, you know, and we just need to make it work for our people. So that, so you know how it is. So you brag about this system that's going to take us into the next level, and the people start to call, and the system turns out that it's not quite that system yet. We just need to know what we got to do to get to that system.
Director Jones, I would suggest that the example that my colleague just gave shows what we've been saying is that this isn't perception versus reality. This is not a perception issue for the folks who are calling you. They're getting notes that say that their issue has been closed, and the reality shows that it has not. And that is the important thing. This is a very important piece of the puzzle that we have to fix. The fact that people get notices that the issue has been resolved, and when they get there in real life, it has not been resolved. And for us, the answer is not call us back, call 311 back, not the department. Call us back or submit another complaint or write an email again. They want to know that they put their complaint into 311, it was handled by the city of Philadelphia, and that it's been resolved. That's all they want. And this is really, really the crux of what we have to fix, which might include reviewing the data in a different way, really looking at who's using the app and who's calling and why. Do we have a better success rate when it's through the app? Are people on top of it more often? Are we double counting calls accidentally because it's coming through the call center and people are calling 2 and 3 and 4 times? 311 was set up to resolve so many of these issues and to take the calls off of the front line of the departments and agencies. I know that, I was here. I remember when you asked us, what are the top 10 questions that you get when someone calls your office? And you started building from that. You then started to build the knowledgeplex that you had of let's get deeper into the questions people want. What answers do you give you? Let's get the easy stuff out of here. But with the harder stuff, the real quality of life things that are affecting Philadelphians every single day, they don't want a note that says closed when it hasn't been resolved. We've got to get deeper into that and look at that data in a very different way.
Agreed.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Seeing no more questions,
No,
we're good.
you get me nervous.
So no additional questions for the meeting. Hearing no further questions from members for this panel and no other panels to testify, we will now transition to our public comment session. Ms. Hartman, will you please call the first person, if there are any, for public comment? We have to testify this morning.
Nefertiri Rayner.
Oh, please come on up. Yep.
Good morning, afternoon maybe now?
Real quick,
Okay.
could you please, thank you so much for being here, and could you state your name for the record before you speak?
My name is Nefertiri Rayner. I've been a Philadelphian all my life. My parents, grandparents, and everything. I'm trying to come to these meetings more and these hearings, and I can kind of be an advocate for my community because it is a disconnect between the workers and you guys, you know? And as somebody, I'm a young adult, and I see what's going on, and basically, from my perspective, which is reality, our app crashes. The 311 app crashes all the time. It does not work properly. We have a place in the app where we can add images, but like the example showed, it can say that it's resolved and a proper solution wasn't made. And actually, in 311's policy, it states that they can say that something is resolved, even if they didn't find a good solution for us. So when we talk about rectifying the situation, we have to go to the policies, because if workers, and this is not to fault anybody, but if workers don't always have integrity and they don't work as they should, and they're just, trying to get this data out, and we don't have actual real-time data to support these statistics, then it looks like stuff is getting resolved and it's not. I've been having problems on my block for a while, and at one point I was like, there's no point of calling 311 because it doesn't get resolved and you say you do, and then I'm submitting another ticket and it's pointless. And then also, we need an email address to get back to people for the solutions, but my grandmother is 76 years old. I don't even think she's ever had an email. And if she has, she doesn't know how to get into it. So that's a problem, because now where's that going to? Is the person that it's going to for her email address? If it is me, I'm busy with my own requests. Or she doesn't even know what to say when they ask her that, or she doesn't know how to work the app. The app right now on the App Store only has 2.1 stars out of 5. Everybody says the app crashes. So this is a constant problem when the people of the community, their perception is oh, this is just perception. This is our reality. And to make everything in our communities work better, we have to be able to, communicate these things and have our solutions actually be resolved. Because to hold people accountable, you have to actually do work with integrity. So that's just my little piece.
Thank you so much. A real quick question. Would you rather receive a text back or an email back after you use the app?
I'm trying to think, because I am young, but I also like doing things more formally through email. But I do think a text message comes through quicker. Like, it's me picking up my phone and being on my phone most of the time, especially most of our working class, they're on their phone. I think a text message is better, because mostly everybody that's complaining has a phone number. So a text message is better.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Councilmember Jimmy Harity.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But one more thing. I think that the app will function better if we can submit requests, put in our requests and put in a picture. I don't know, you guys probably have Amazon, but when they send us a package and they solve our problem with the package, if we have to complain to them and say, hey, my package isn't here, we take a picture and show it back. So I think the app should be a two-way thing. It should be them showing a picture that we solved the problem and us putting a picture that we have a problem. So.
Got it. Okay, my question's real easy. What's the problem on your block, and what block is it?
I live on Broughton, Huntington Park, so not just the block, the neighborhood. It's trash everywhere. It's abandoned cars everywhere. My mom's neighborhood as well. Abandoned cars falling apart. It's just trash, it's filthy, potholes, it's all types of things.
All right, so we need to clean up. Got it.
Yes.
Broad and Hunting Park.
Yes.
I'm at G in Allegheny, so I'm not far. I go past there all the time. I'll make sure that we put a report in. I'm sure I see everybody writing behind you, so they're all taking
I don't mean to make you guys all,
Listen, you're here, you might as well try to get done what you need to get done, right? That's what we're here for. So Broad and Hunting Park, cleaning and abandoned autos.
Yes.
I got it.
And thank you so much for the suggestions of how to better the system. Maybe we could do a public call for suggestions for that, so we can gather up some of them. But that sounds like a great idea, everything that you've said. Anybody else?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Ms. Hartman, is there anybody else here for public comment?
There are no more speakers on the list.
Okay. I would like to thank all of our witnesses for joining us today, and there being no further questions from members of the committee and no other witnesses to testify on Resolution 250059, I will ask if there's anyone else present in this hearing whose name we have failed to call and that wishes to offer testimony on the resolution being considered today. Hearing none, I want to thank the panels and witnesses for their participation today. We value your opinions. Do any members of the committee have closing remarks? No. Thank you so much. This concludes the public hearing of the Committee of Technology and Information Systems. This committee will stand in recess until the call of the chair. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you.